After e4 and knight f6, the way I suggest to continue this is with knight c3. We avoid the main line, but this is also a very good move, so there's nothing wrong with this. And if black plays e5, and this is literally a transposition into the Vienna game, then you can play f4, and I've got a huge repertoire coming up on my channel. I made already a few videos about the Vienna Gambit, so you can check it out. Otherwise, we're going to start by going with this move. This is fairly popular, and you need to know what to do against this opening, against this defense, because it's really annoying. Now white continues with e5, which is part of the usual ideas against the Alekhine. Basically e5 pushes the pawn, but in this case black doesn't have the usual square knight d5, also because of his own pawn. Well, also we have a knight. Anyway, now we're going to go through this specific defense. Black continues with d4. So how do we deal with this? Take the knight, and now black takes out piece back, and now take the pawn, attacking, obviously threatening to take the rook with the promotion, so that's something that black cannot ignore unless he can make a check. And this is the main move. They make this move with check, and now it's crucial that you take with the queen, because this is forcing a swap of queens, unless black wants to block his own queen like this, and then but then you're winning the rook, so black will have to do something immediately. And taking the pawn means that you can swap queens, and black loses the right to castle. So after queen takes and bishop takes, now black takes back finally on the g7 pawn, and now white can castle alongside. Two main moves we're going to see now. One of them, the normal castle, and now white continues with knight f3. Now black can play something like bishop to f5 or knight to c6 for example. Let's see how we're going to deal with this. Knight to c6 is met by the immediate bishop to b5, which threatens to break the pawn structure here. That's what we want to do. Also, the knight is the defender of the square e7. We want to target that square soon enough. And this knight, the integrity of the pawn structure cannot be defended with bishop to d7, simply because of bishop f4. This discovers an attack on the bishop and also starts an attack on the pawn in c7. And if black plays, well, knight e5 is not possible because you're going to have two pieces attacking d7 anyway. Or e5, for example, attacking the bishop. This is still met by rook to d7, and after the pawn takes the bishop, you're going to win a pawn, and you're going to break this pawn structure. You're going to keep the rook on an open file. Black will have double isolated pawn on the f file, one isolated on the h file, and these two silly pawns. It's completely winning for white. If black wants to keep the integrity of the pawn structure, and he goes like, for example, knight d4, then you can just take the knight, bishop takes back, obviously, and now bishop g5 will put white in a winning endgame, because we're targeting this pawn in e7 whilst we're targeting the bishop in d4. So the bishop will have to go, but then white will be able to take the pawn and trap the rook. So bishop f6 is kind of saving both, but still, look at this. After rook h2 e1, the game it belongs completely to the white player. So not only the better pawn structure, but also better development. And in this position, once again, if black wants to preserve the pawn structure and plays knight to e5, again, we just take, and after the bishop takes back, now we have bishop h6 attacking the rook. The rook can't go to e8 or d8. In d8 gets checkmated. In e8 gets taken for free. So after bishop to g7, swap the bishop, king takes back, and now rook h2 e1, targeting the pawn and threatening to reach the 7th rank. So again, the rook can't go to e8 because of the bishop, so black will have to prevent the arrival of the rook on the 7th rank. And bishop e6 is a mistake, right? Black might think, okay, I don't want to lock my bishop inside my area, but I'm going to play e6, and that's bad because black will not be able to develop the bishop. So black might think that and decide to play bishop e6, but this loses to bishop to d7. We're threatening to break the pawn structure here. And after the bishop takes and the rook takes back, of course, the endgame becomes a joke. So the black player is forced to do this move, unless he wants to play king f6. And then white has an idea of playing rook to e3. Position is just better. So let's go through another move, which is e6. And the black player might think of developing the bishop through the fianchetto, right? So after e6, we'll conclude this line by mentioning the next moves. White continues with rook to d4. The idea is to play rook to e3 and then transfer both rooks on the side of the king. So right now, developing in fianchetto is not ideal. So remember this pattern. It doesn't only apply to this opening, but it applies just in general, not just to this setup. If black plays b6 now, where the bishop is in b5, you can play bishop to c6, forcing the rook to go to b8, meaning that the black player will not be able to use the fianchetto bishop, because as soon as he goes to the fianchetto position, you might think of swapping and the rook would be kind of silly in b7, and that will allow the white player to take control of the d file by placing both rooks. So let's look at this. For example, black plays a6, getting rid of the bishop. The idea to play bishop a4 and then b5, and then when the bishop moves and then bishop b7 becomes already very different, because the bishop will be good in fianchetto and the rook will be able to move along the rank. So white plays bishop to d3 now, so that b5 doesn't come with a tempo. This is really important. So the bishop can't develop, the rook can't develop, so black will have to develop the bishop by going through b5. This doesn't come with a tempo. Well, anyway, white continues with rook to g4 check. And when the king moves to the center of the board, then you got ideas of playing rook e3 and then f3, kicking the king away and then infiltrating the rook to the 7th rank and doing your business. But if the king goes back to h8, then you continue with rook h4 with the obvious threat of these 2 pieces. So after f5, defending everything, white's crucial move, and we're going to finish the line here, is g4. No matter what, whether black takes or not, we might take later on. We got a rook infiltrating in the g file as soon as we give a check, and then the king moves. The situation here is like the engine, especially after the move g takes f5, says that it's like +7. So we can finish this line and quickly move on to the next one.